What's cracking with you people? Anansi here and welcome to a new series on the channel, Dead or Alive 1 Ultimate. The game that started uh, an entire fighting game franchise, and I think an overrunning meme, as you can kind of see on screen right now. This is back in the day when you didn't press the start button, you either get an intro cinematic or you see uh, two I think a pre-recorded segment of two random characters from the game fighting. Now, when it comes to Dead or Alive, since it's a fighting game, I'm going to be trying something new with this. We're going to be handling this entire series in post. I want to see how it goes personally because I think, as opposed to racing games, fighting games, I think I'd have to take a more commentator, like announcer style, as opposed to how I handled games like Jack X and the like. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to take the time to and what we're going to do is we're going to essentially just kind of talk about Dead or Alive and just some of the characters and how the series evolved. This is going to be more of a retrospective Let's Play as opposed to a traditional Let's Play. That being said, let's jump into it. So going into Dead or Alive Ultimate, a couple of things to note is that unlike later games in the series, you don't have a story mode. It's just arcade mode. You get the ability to, choose your costumes and whatnot, and next to each of the characters has essentially their life story written out in like their stats. I'm showing off all the characters you got because there's not a lot of them. We're going to go through each one individually. Each episode is going to be dedicated to a specific character. But for right now, today's episode we're going to dedicate to Kasumi, actually the heroine of the entire Dead or Alive series. People don't really know that because for the most part, everybody thinks that Dead or Alive is just the game with the jiggle physics. And to an extent, they're right. As you can see, they're pretty much on full display right now. So, where to start? Well, let's start off with the technical stuff. So, Dead or Alive is a simple pause combo heavy fighter. What that means is that you're going to have your heavy attack, your light attack. Oh, I guess your punch and your kick. And if you want to do combos, you pause in between each one. Now, I'm going to let you know right now that footage you're about to see, I am not that good at the original Dead or Alive. My expertise lies mainly with 2 and with 4 to some extent. And even then, I'm not that good at those games. But I figure for the sake of completion, we're going to go through each game individually. Let's kind of talk about each thing they do. At the same time, going from there, Dead or Alive, it has a pause button, as a pause combo system, and what would eventually evolve into more cinematic transitions. The danger zones. That's pretty much anywhere that you see on the ring that's glowing red or blue. If you hit your enemy into those sections, they will take damage via an explosion. And as I said, this would later expand into these really elaborate stage transitions. Now, you're also going to see me do some fails too, because otherwise this whole video would be like all of maybe 5 minutes. Dead or Alive is not a long game via independent character if you know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing, for the most part, because once again, this is a fighting game that was originally released in the arcades back in, I believe, '97, and what we're playing right now is the Dead or Alive Ultimate re-release on the original Xbox. This was way before any of the story got fleshed out, way before what's the one for here? Way before any of the characters that we would know them would develop their quirks, develop their personalities, and that kind of stuff, you know. And that's all I can really say with regards to the evolution of, well, I guess for the moment, just all I can really say for the series in terms of Dead or Alive 1. Now, if you have an original copy, you get a booklet here, and I actually have the booklet with me. I'm going to go ahead and read out the story for Kasumi specifically, just so we can kind of get an idea of what's going on. Because once again, this is back when the stories of these games, like the original Dead or Alive, the original Soul Calibur, the original Street Fighter, you had to find in the manual. So I'm gonna go ahead and just read out what it is. Kasumi is torn between her responsibilities and the urge to know the truth. Kasumi's brother, Hayate, was rightful heir to Mugen Tenshin style and ready to succeed as the 18th leader of the clan, until one fateful day when an assassin attacked and crippled him. Kasumi's father, Shiden, was left bitter and refuses to discuss the details surrounding the attack on Hayate. He ordered Kasumi to succeed her brother's position as the leader of Mugen Tenshin style. However, Kasumi secretly left her village without leaving a trace. Yeah. Don't you love the good English right there? They didn't translate this very well, but it's supposed to be read without leaving a trace in order to avenge your brother and seek out the truth. And in the manual, you get your combo styles and whatnot. I'm not talking about a lot of the fightings right now because we're going to be going over these with each individual character. So I'm not going to worry about trying to fit all of it into one particular thing, as it were. But yeah, that is Kasumi's story as it stands right now. It also shows in it that now granted, a lot of this is, for all intents and purposes, retroactive stuff. Like, there are some things inside this booklet that I think they didn't think up until the next game, because Kasumi's family life is way more twisted than you would expect, and it all revolves around the final fight of Dead or Alive. And in true Dead or Alive style, he is a difficult fight. So now we are on Jan Lee right now, if my memory serves correct. How Dead or Alive works in terms of level progression or stage progression is that each enemy will not get progressively harder. They just have their own unique fighting styles and unique things they'll focus on. Like, for instance, I really don't have trouble with a lot of the characters in this game when I'm fighting them. When I'm playing as characters that fit my playstyle, fast and kind of dances around the opponent. Jan Lee, I think, is the first one that legitimately gives me trouble, but the one that really gets me is going to be the next fight. And honestly, that's just mostly because it's just hard going from the refined, quick, fluid pace of the later Dead or Alive entries. Like, literally going from 1 to 2, they're completely different games. Like, they might as well be completely different games because 1 is so slow. I'm trying to do all these quick reaction, directional combos and whatnot, and I can't do it because the game itself is inputting directions slower than the actual attack button. So I'm having to deal with that on top of essentially just getting used to fighting these characters in their individual styles. But yeah, going back to Kasumi, as you can see right there. Oh, and here's the one that gives me trouble. Tina. You might not think Tina's a tough opponent, but she will make sure that you understand another one of the main gimmicks, I should say, of Dead or Alive. Now, I don't know if a lot of games did this particular one. I want to say Tekken may have done it, and this will get into thing in a second here about Tekken and Dead or Alive's relationship, but Dead or Alive has two different throw systems. What a throw is essentially a grapple move. Think Soul Calibur, whenever you get to a point where it's like your enemy's on your nerves, you grab them, do a quick attack that they really can't break out of, and get some cheap damage on them. Dead or Alive has two of those. And every single move can be countered because of one of them. You have, like I said, you have your punch, your kick, and your throw, but you also have your holds. Your holds are your counterattacks. Now, I'm not using the holds very much right now because I was never good at the hold system. I'm not even going to deny that. I was never good at the hold system. I'm debating trying to practice all the Dead or Alive games just to get good at them, just to say that I was good at them, even though it's kind of after the fact, and a lot of the games are very, very different later on. But how the whole system works is that depending on where you hold, high, mid, low. Well, I guess mid and low, high attacks get countered by the mid hold. Your character will grab the attack, counter them, and do some damage, depending on what kind of hold you do. And the holds themselves have directional inputs too. So the best I can do is a basic hold, so it gets like a little bit of chip damage, but there are some holds in Dead or Alive that will straight up do half your opponent's health bar. And it is ridiculous. You might have seen in the previous Jan Lee fight that Jan Lee had a specific attack where he will run and jump at you and it would do half your health bar. Like I said, this is an arcade game, so these opponents were designed to eat your quarters, to essentially make playing the game as difficult as possible. I applaud it for that, but my goodness, do I hate it. And the whole system would evolve further and further into these just over-the-top combos to where you essentially look like you're playing an anime, which for me was the appeal of Dead or Alive back in the day. It still is to some extent nowadays, but to a lesser extent due to the change in art style. And when I get into later games, we'll get into that. Going back into Kasumi specifically. Kasumi as a character is actually a very interesting character with regards to Dead or Alive and to Ninja Gaiden, the game series that Ryo Hayabusa that we fought in stage 3 of this, actually, which technically this makes it his first 3D debut as opposed to the Ninja Gaiden Black for the original Xbox when that came out. But her history is, as a character, is complicated, kind of like how Dead or Alive is complicated. Dead or Alive was I believe, the brainchild of, if I'm remembering this name correctly, Tomonobu Itagaki, who left Tecmo Koei after Ninja Gaiden 2 and Dead or Alive 4 to found his own studio, Valhalla, which for some reason uses the damn near exact same intro sequence as Team Ninja's later intro cinematics for Dead or Alive 2, 3, Ninja Gaiden, Dead or Alive Extreme Volleyball, that kind of stuff. I think they even still have it to this day when you play Neo. Yes, the same people who make Dead or Alive and make Ninja Gaiden make Neo. But Tomonobu Itagaki, for all intents and purposes, was pretty much responsible for a lot of Tecmo Koei's biggest and best-selling franchises, Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive, because he had a very keen interest in the gameplay and the style. I guess the best comparison to that would be Shigeru Miyamoto of Nintendo fame. Shigeru Miyamoto, Nintendo fame, and everybody knows who he is. The creator of Mario, Donkey Kong, Zelda, just pretty much all of Nintendo's library this one man created, or at the very least had a hand in creating. And Miyamoto's philosophy was every game could possibly be someone's first game. So he always makes and directs games with that in mind, so they're nice and technically solid. Which is the one thing that gets overlooked with Dead or Alive and Ninja Gaiden because of, you know, that titty. And that's just because everybody focuses on, you know. But they're technically solid games. Like, if Dead or Alive buckled down, which they do after this game, and Ninja Gaiden buckles down and does at this game and just focuses on its core mechanics, they're some of the best games you're ever going to play in your life. Just from a technical standpoint. Narratively speaking, they're terrible. they're overly convoluted to an insane degree. Dead or Alive even more so. And I guess, oh, by the way, when you get to the Kasumi fight, this is arguably the final boss, because when you fight Kasumi, she will kick your behind so much. Like, the majority of this video is just me trying to beat the Kasumi clone. But this ties back into why it is I enjoy Dead or Alive, because whether or not Itagaki intended to do it, or maybe a writer on his staff did it, they took some common tropes of fighting games, of 3D fighting games anyway, and managed to make them narratively important. Like, for instance, we're fighting we're essentially having a clone fight here. When a clone fight is, I believe, the technical term for when two players pick the same character as a clone fight. Dead or Alive has actual clone characters. They're all clones of Kasumi, because she's the main heroine of the series. But we have clone fights. They made clone battles canonically important to the series. And once again, as we get further down in the Dead or Alive game franchise, I'll be touching on that. And another trope, which we'll get into with the next fight, because the next fight is the final fight, they made that narratively important too. But right now, the only thing that matters is that Kasumi is on a vengeance quest. That's all her thing is. And Dead or Alive 1 is a vengeance quest. And they would later streamline this in the Dead or Alive Dimensions game for the DS, which, if you go by crossover theory, makes Metroid and Halo occur in the same continuity. Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to, well, I don't have Dimensions, but when we get to Dead or Alive 4, I will definitely be hammering that one through. Oh Lord, will I be hammering that one through. But yeah, so with Dead or Alive, this was essentially Tecmo's big break into 3D. And Itagaki had the brilliant idea of making Dead or Alive and Ninja Gaiden canon, within context to each other. Like, for instance, Ryu in this game is Kasumi's older brother's best friend. And well, we'll get to that story when we get to it, but he is his best friend, and essentially he's looking out for his best friend's younger sister. Kasumi is pretty much naive and very soft, as it was, and that would actually kind of inform how Itagaki went about dictating how these characters would be used. For instance, one of his rules was that he never wanted Kasumi to appear in a Ninja Gaiden game, because Ninja Gaiden games are incredibly violent, incredibly bloody, and he thought that she was too soft to appear in those games. Once he left, the first thing they did with Ninja Gaiden 3 was they put Kasumi in the game, and honestly, it was one of the best additions to the franchise ever, because she was amazing to play as, because she is a ninja. Obviously, some of her trademarks that would appear in later games are not here right now. Like, she's in her trademark blue dress, but she doesn't have her trademark Kadachi or ninja dagger or short sword. I can't remember exactly how they define that one, because I see translations all over the place and the thing changes shape and size all the time. But yeah, his main thing was that she was too soft to appear in Dead or Alive, to appear in Ninja Gaiden. So he kept her within the confines of Dead or Alive. But as Dead or Alive got crazier and crazier, oh boy, it just got to a point where it's like there really is no point in her not being playable in Ninja Gaiden. Which should bring me to my next point. There is a character in Dead or Alive named Ayane. She is essentially trying to kill Kasumi. Ayane is Kasumi's half sister and her cousin. Yeah. You might be wondering why I'm bringing her up now, since she doesn't actually make an appearance until Ninja Gaiden. Well, actually, technically, yes, Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive 2. That's because in the Dead or Alive 1 Hardcore, which I think is a PlayStation 2 exclusive version of Dead or Alive, you get to play as Ayane. You have to unlock her first. I don't believe you can unlock her in Dead or Alive Ultimate. She's only unlockable in the hardcore mode in the PlayStation 2 version of this game. And she has a very complicated history, which we will touch on, and we'll touch on a little bit more later on in this run of the original Dead or Alive, but we'll touch on way more in the Dead or Alive 2. Just know that this one premise makes Dead or Alive infinitely more interesting, in my opinion, than any fighting game narratively, but disappointing because they never touch on it. They had plans to touch on it, and an unpublished game, I don't think it ever got further than the planning phase, called Code Chronos, and it would focus around Kasumi and Ayane during their childhood days, because when they were children, they were best friends, but they had no idea they were related. And it would focus around their younger days, but that younger days would have been them being either way too young, or maybe they didn't know how they wanted to do it. I can think of ways to do it, and I'm probably going to talk about some of that in later Dead or Alive series games, specifically the ones where we actually have a story mode, because, oh lord, the story gets crazy. But at the same time, when you're a fan of Dead or Alive, because here's the thing, if you're not a fan of Dead or Alive, then a lot of this information just goes over your head. It's completely innocuous. Which makes the next thing I say incredibly awkward. Dead or Alive is one of the few video game franchises. And here's Raido. We'll get to that one. But here's Raido. Here's the essentially the catalyst for the entire series. And I've already unlocked him on this file, so we'll talk about Raido more as a character when we get to his playthrough. But Raido is he's the assassin that crippled Hayate, that Kasumi's trying to murder. She's also Kasumi's uncle, which makes her Ayane's dad. Once again, Kasumi's family tree is very twisted because of this man right here. And we'll get to him when we get to him. But it's important to bring up, as a fighting mechanic, the final boss, Raido is your typical Shao Kahn kind of final boss, your Sagat final boss, where all of his moves hit like a truck. He's likely to kill you in like 2 to 4 hits if the AI is being particularly vicious. It's actually right around now that I start making better use of the whole system. That's your only way to counter him. He's also a mimic fighter. A mimic fighter is like, in terms of Soul Calibur, because I think the Soul Calibur actually has like 4. Like, legitimately has 4 mimic fighters. One fighter is Nightmare. No, not Nightmare. Nightmare is the antagonist. He's technically a mirror fighter, but he's not, because he's just the dark side of Siegfried. It's not Nightmare. It's this weird enemy with like an eyeball for a stomach, and depending on how you fight, depending on like how many rounds you go, he'll use a different character's fighting style to fight you with. There's also the Master, which I believe he appeared in Soul Calibur 1, I think 2 as well. He made a reappearance in Calibur 5. And he was the original mimic fighter, but they toned him down a bit in a pretty interesting way in Soul Calibur 5, where he would mimic only he can mimic every fighter except for the other mimic fighters. And the other and I believe now I want to say Raidao is the reason why they do this, but Raidao does have some moves unique to himself, which just kind of works out. Which kind of works out to where you just can't like predict what he's going to do, because he doesn't stand like any of the other characters. And unlike people like the Master, Inferno, that was his name. I think Inferno was his name in Soul Calibur 2, and Elysium and Soul Calibur 5, they don't use a random weapon per round. Raidao has a mixture of everybody's moves in him at all times. He doesn't have every character's move. Well, every character's he doesn't have the whole roster of every character's move, but he does have characters' moves, and they hit harder because of him hitting harder. And they made that narratively important. Like, his special ability is that he can mimic any technique he sees once, which kind of relates to this next thing. Dead or Alive is one of the few video game franchises to get a movie adaptation. I actually have the movie. I have, in my opinion, of the movies I have seen, because I have not seen the original Mortal Kombat movies. I have not seen. No, wait, I take it back. I've seen, I think, Blood Rain and 2 other Uwe Boll movies, and because Uwe Boll is a terrible director, all of them were crap. So the bar is set really low for me. But of the few that I've seen, which includes the Halo Forward Unto Dawn movie, which that's a whole thing in of itself when I get to Halo. Oh man, I got words for that when I get to Halo. Dead or Alive and Forward Unto Dawn are, in my opinion, as far as the movies I have seen, I have not seen the original Mortal Kombat, so keep this in mind. These are the best adaptations of video games I've ever seen in my life. I've also not seen the Assassin's Creed movie. One of these days I want to fix that, because I think I should at least see that movie, because I hear mixed things about it, but, I've not seen World of Warcraft, but I never played World of Warcraft, so I couldn't tell you if it's good or not. I can only judge that movie based on just watching it. But yeah, no, Dead or Alive has one of the better movies. It's off the wall, it's ridiculous, it's all that 90s cheese where they give the characters give the characters watches that have health bars on them. It is stupid in all the best ways. But as a kung fu movie, well, as a martial arts movie, it's pretty good. The acting's all right, and the characters are fun. So that's at the very least that's all that really matters. They make Tina important for some random reason. I don't know why. And that brings me to my final point. In the movie, same thing happened, but Kasumi's already the head of the clan. She just randomly leaves, and Ayane sits at the tracker. At the end of the movie, Kasumi falls in love with someone I don't think is Ryu, because I don't think Ryu shows up in the movie at all. It looks like, okay, so we're at the end here. I'll go ahead and finish this tangent to the credits, because you're going to see these credits every time you play through the game. So yeah, but so yeah, for right now, I think we'll show this off for right now, just so I can finish this tangent. But I'll probably cut it out next time, so that we don't have to worry about seeing it again. But the movie ends with Ayane hooking up with Hayate. This shows that whoever made the movie did not play the games, because you would realize that Hayate is literally making out with his half-sister cousin. Yes. If you're not a fan of Dead or Alive, that movie is at most average. Watchable. I say watchable once. If you are a fan of Dead or Alive, it goes from being watchable to you have to cut out the very end of it, because oh boy, does it become cringe. But yeah, that's what I have to say about Kasumi and Dead or Alive and whatnot. We're going to get more into these characters as we go through the series. For right now, I hope this experiment turned out okay. If it received well, we're going to keep doing the Dead or Alive games. If not, this will probably be the only Dead or Alive game I do on the channel. Until then, I've been Anansi, you've been awesome, and I'll catch you later.